My sister and I bought a house for our mom, but she secretly moved our mom into assisted living and rented the house for profit without telling me. So I lawyered up, fought her in court, and brought mom home. I need people to understand the full picture before they judge me. My name does not matter, but for the sake of this post. I am Mexican-American, born and raised in San Antonio. I work as an occupational therapy assistant at a rehab hospital. I make $51,000 a year, which in San Antonio is enough to keep the lights on if you do not do anything stupid. I drive a 2017 Honda HR Vive with 87,000 miles on it. I rent a two-bedroom apartment in the medical center area, $1,290 a month, which hurts every single time I see the charge hit my account. I have a son, Diego, who is 9 years old, and the reason I get up every morning. His father pays child support $380 a month, usually late, sometimes very late, once not at all for 2 months until I had to get the AG's office involved. That is my life. It is not glamorous, but it is mine. My sister Veronica is 41. She lives in Austin with her husband Alan. Veronica works as a business analyst at a tech company and makes $98,000 a year. Alan is an account executive at some SAS company. He makes $140,000. They live in a 4-bedroom house in Cedar Park with their 2 kids, Mason 7 and Olivia 5. They have a Peloton in the guest room and a backyard with one of those fancy pergolas. They go to Fredericksburg for wine weekends. That is their life. Also not glamorous in the way people in New York would think, but in Texas terms, they are doing very well. Our mother Gloria is 67 years old. She worked as a hotel housekeeper at La Quinta for 30 years. 30 years of stripping beds, scrubbing toilets, pushing carts down hallways in orthopedic shoes that she bought at Payless because the good ones cost too much. She raised us by herself after our father left when I was 4. She had no savings, no retirement fund, no 401k, no pension, nothing. When she finally stopped working, she was renting a crumbling 1-bedroom apartment on the west side of San Antonio. The window AC unit rattled so loud you could not hear the TV. The landlord never fixed anything. Not the leaking ceiling, not the broken deadbolt, not the mold in the bathroom. Then one night in 2019, my mother fell in the bathtub. She called me at 11 p.m., screaming. I drove there in 12 minutes. She was on the bathroom floor in her nightgown holding the side of the tub with a bruise on her hip the size of a grapefruit. That was the night I decided my mother is never living like this again. The house. In 2020, Veronica and I bought a house together for our mom. It is a 2-bedroom cottage on Guadalupe Street in the Prospect Hill neighborhood just west of downtown San Antonio. Small, old, beautiful. It has a front porch with a wrought iron railing and a backyard big enough for a garden. We bought it for $142,000. I put in $35,000 as a down payment. That was everything I had. 8 years of saving every tax return, every overtime shift I picked up at the hospital weekends, holidays doubles when someone called in sick, every birthday check from my tias, that I did not spend every time I said no to something Diego wanted because I was putting that $20 away. 8 years, and I handed it over in a cashier's check at the title company without blinking because it was for my mom. Veronica put in $35,000 too. I want to be fair about that. She matched me. We got a mortgage for the remaining $72,000. Both our names on the deed, both our names on the loan, monthly mortgage payment $680. I pay $340. Veronica pays $340. Every month on time, no exceptions. I have never missed a payment. The day we gave Mom the keys, she stood in the living room and did not say anything for a long time. She just looked around. Then she touched the wall like she was checking to make sure it was real. She said, "Mijas, this is the first home I have ever had. You gave me a home." Veronica and I were both crying. Diego was running around the backyard yelling about the tree. It was the best day of my life. Mom planted a garden, tomatoes, jalapenos, cilantro, a little patch of epazote. She hung a Virgin de Guadalupe portrait in the living room, the big one with a gold frame that she had kept wrapped in a blanket for years because she never had a wall worthy of it. She started cooking Sunday pozole for the whole family. She would call me on Thursday nights, and I would drive over, and we would watch telenovelas together on a couch, and she would fall asleep with her head on a pillow next to me, and I would cover her with a blanket and let myself out and lock the door behind me. For 4 years, I handled everything with that house. I drove from the medical center to Prospect Hill every weekend, 35 minutes each way, more in traffic. I mowed the lawn. I fixed the dripping kitchen faucet with a YouTube video and a $7 part from Home Depot. I took Mom to her cardiologist at University Health every 3 months. I organized her medications. I brought Diego, and he would play in the backyard while Mom taught him how to water the tomatoes. I did this gladly. I never complained, not once. Veronica visited from Austin every 6 to 8 weeks. She would bring Mason and Olivia stay for Sunday Pozole, take 8 or 9 photos, and post them on Instagram with captions like, "Me, Reina Crown Red Heart Family, First Blessed Daughters." Then she would load the kids in a Highlander and drive back to Cedar Park. She never mowed the lawn. She never fixed anything. She never sat with Mom at a cardiology appointment listening to a doctor explain ejection fractions and medication interactions, but she posted the photos. She always posted the photos. I told myself it was fine. Veronica lives an hour and a half away. She has 2 young kids. She has a demanding job. I was the one who was close. It made sense that I did more. I believed that. I really did. What Veronica did. 3 months ago, I got a call from Mom's neighbor, Mrs. Fuentes. Mrs. Fuentes is 73, a retired school bus driver, and she watches everything on Guadalupe Street from her front porch like it is her full-time job. She said, "Rosa, there are people moving into your mother's house with furniture. Your mother is not here." I want to describe what happened to my body when she said that. My hands went cold. My stomach dropped like I was on a roller coaster. I said, "What do you mean, people?" She said, "A young couple. They have a U-Haul." I hung up and I drove. When I got to Guadalupe Street, there was indeed a U-Haul in the driveway. A woman in her late 20s was carrying a floor lamp through the front door. A man was unloading boxes. I got out of my car and I walked up and I said very calmly in a voice that did not match anything happening inside my chest, "Excuse me? What are you doing? This is my mother's house." The woman looked at me. She was not rude. She actually looked a little nervous. She said, "We signed a lease. We are renting this house." We talked to Veronica. Veronica. My sister Veronica. My sister who makes $98,000 a year and posts Family First on Instagram. My sister had leased our mother's house to strangers. Here is what I found out over the next 48 hours. Veronica had listed the house on Zillow Rentals. She described it as a charming 2-bedroom cottage in up-and-coming Prospect Hill. She signed a 12-month lease as co-owner and property manager. The rent was $1,400 a month. She had moved our mother out of the house 10 days before I found out. 10 days. My mother had been gone from her home for 10 days and nobody told me. Where did Veronica move her Sunny Oaks Assisted Living, a facility on Babcock Road? Cost $3,800 a month. Veronica told Mama, it is time. You need more help than Rosa can give you. This place has nurses' activities, people your age. You will love it. Update 1: what I found at Sunny Oaks. I drove to Sunny Oaks the same day. I want you to picture what I saw. My mother, the woman who planted jalapenos, who hung the Virgin de Guadalupe on the wall, who made pozole every Sunday, who told me, "You gave me a home," was sitting on the edge of a twin bed in a shared room, shared with a stranger. She was wearing a hospital-style bracelet with her name on it. She was holding her rosary. The room smelled like industrial cleaner and reheated food. There was a TV mounted on the wall playing some game show at a volume that would give you a headache. Mom looked up at me and started crying. Not dramatic crying, quiet crying. The kind that is worse. She said, "They put me in a room with a woman I do not know. The food has no flavor. I asked for chili, and they said it is not on the menu. I want to go home. Where is my garden? Where is my virgin?" The virgin portrait was still at the house. Veronica had not even taken it with her. She had left our mother's most sacred possession hanging on a wall for some strangers to stare at. I sat next to Mom on that twin bed and held her hands and said, "Mama, I am going to fix this." She looked at me with these eyes, tired, confused, a little embarrassed, and she said, "You always fix everything." "But who fixes things for you?" I almost broke right there. I did not in front of her. Update 2: the confrontation. I called Veronica that night. I was sitting in my car in the Sunny Oaks parking lot because I did not want Diego to hear the conversation. Here is what was said, and I remember every word because I have replayed it in my head 400 times. Me, Veronica. "What did you do?" Veronica, Rosa, Mom, fell again last month. She left the stove on twice. She is 67, but she lives like she is 80. She needs professional care. I made a decision as co-owner of the property. The rental income covers most of Sunny Oaks. It is logical. Me, you moved our mother out of her home without telling me. You rented our house without my signature. You signed a lease I have never seen, and you put her in a facility she hates and is begging to leave. How is any of that logical? Veronica, Allen, and I talked about it. We think this is the most financially responsible path forward. The house is an asset. Mom needs supervised care. The math works. Me, Allen, does not get a vote. His name is not on the deed. His name is not on this mortgage. He did not put $35,000 into this house. Since when does Alan decide where our mother lives? Veronica, he is my husband, Rosa. We make decisions together. That is what marriage is. Me, and what about your sister? What about the other person whose name is on that deed? The other person who put in $35,000 and has been paying $340 a month for 4 years? The person who mows the lawn and fixes the faucet and takes mom to the cardiologist? When did that person get a call? Veronica went quiet for a second. Then she said, "You are too emotional about this. Rosa, you cannot see clearly. Mom needs help. I did what needed to be done. Too emotional. I was too emotional. I thought about that phrase every single day since she said it. I was too emotional because I did not want our mother ripped and dumped in a facility without anyone asking me. I was too emotional because I cried when I found my mom holding a rosary in a room that smelled like Lysol. I was too emotional. You know what I think? I think Veronica looked at that house and saw a number $1,400 a month, $16,800 a year. She saw a revenue stream. She saw an asset she could monetize, and she moved the inconvenience our mother into a building where someone else would be responsible for her. And she told herself it was logic when it was greed. Update 3, the legal reality. The next week, I went to see a real estate attorney. His name is Luis Garza. His office is on Commerce Street, downtown, second floor above a barber shop. He charged me $250 for the consultation, which I put on a credit card I should not be using. Mr. Garza told me several things. First, the lease Veronica signed might technically be valid because she is a co-owner. Texas law gives co-owners certain rights, but she did not have sole authority to lease the property. She did not have my consent. She did not have my signature. And she absolutely did not have the legal right to remove our mother from the home without consulting the other co-owner. He said I could file something called a partition action. This would essentially force the issue. Either Veronica buys me out, I buy her out, or the court orders the house sold. He said this process would cost between $8,000 and $15,000 in legal fees. I make $51,000 a year. I have zero savings. I spent everything on the down payment 4 years ago. I have a 9-year-old son. I have rent. I have car insurance. I have groceries. I have Diego's school supplies and his baseball league fees and his dentist appointments. I do not have $8,000. I sat in Mr. Garza's office and stared at his desk for a long time. He is a kind man. He did not rush me. He said, "Miss Delgado, there are other options. You can send a formal demand letter first. That sometimes resolves things without litigation. I will do that for $500. I said yes to the demand letter. I put that on the credit card too. Update 4, the fallout. The demand letter went out 2 weeks later. It stated that Veronica had leased a co-owned property without the consent of the other owner, that the lease was potentially voidable, that the removal of our mother from the property was done without authorization, and that I was demanding the tenants vacate within 60 days, the lease be terminated, and our mother be returned to her home. Veronica called me the day she received it. She was furious. "You got a lawyer? You got a lawyer against your own sister," I said. "You moved our mother into a facility without telling me. You rented our house to strangers. I asked you to fix it. You told me I was too emotional." So, yes, Veronica, I got a lawyer. Alan is livid. He says this is going to affect our credit if those tenants break the lease early. Alan's credit is not my concern. Rosa, you are tearing this family apart. No, Veronica. You tore it apart when you decided our mother was less important than $1,400 a month. She hung up. After that, things moved fast and ugly. My tia Lupe called me and said Veronica had told the whole family I was suing her, that I was being vindictive, that I was jealous of Veronica's success, and was using Mom as a weapon. Tia Lupe asked me, "Is it true, mija? Are you really taking your sister to court?" I explained everything. Tia Lupe went quiet and then said, "Dios mío." She took Gloria out of her home. Tia Lupe called every one of my tias that night. By morning, Veronica's phone was ringing off the hook with aunts, uncles, and cousins who had opinions. Strong ones. My cousin Eddie, who is a contractor, drove to Guadalupe Street on his own and knocked on the door. He asked the tenants, very politely, if they knew the full situation. He did not threaten them, he did not raise his voice. He told them the truth, that the house belonged to 2 sisters, that only one signed the lease, and that the other sister had filed a legal objection. He said they might want to consult their own attorney. The tenants, who turned out to be perfectly nice people who had no idea about any of this, were shaken. They called Veronica. She did not answer. They called again. She did not answer. They called a third time. and she told them everything was being handled. Meanwhile, Gloria was still at Sunny Oaks. She had lost 9 pounds, 9 pounds in less than 3 months. She stopped cooking. Obviously, she did not have a kitchen. She stopped gardening. There was nothing to garden. She stopped watching telenovelas because the TV in the common room was always on the wrong channel, and she did not want to bother anyone by asking to change it. My mother, who had survived 30 years of housekeeping, who had raised 2 daughters alone, who had never asked anyone for anything, my mother was disappearing. She told me last week in a voice so small I almost did not hear it. Mija, I think Veronica is ashamed of me. She wants me somewhere clean where nobody sees me. I am going to carry that sentence for the rest of my life. Update 5 where things stand now. Here is where things are today. The tenants have indicated they want to break the lease early. They do not want to be in the middle of a family legal dispute, and I do not blame them. Their lease has an early termination clause that Veronica, in a rare moment of carelessness, included. They can leave with 30 days' notice and forfeit their deposit. They have given notice. Veronica is scrambling. The $1,400 a month she was counting on to offset Sunny Oaks is about to evaporate. Sunny Oaks costs $3,800 a month. Veronica told me she and Alan were paying the difference, about $2,400 a month out of pocket. Without the rental income, they will be paying the full $3,800 on top of their Cedar Park mortgage, their car payments, their Peloton subscription, Mason's, swim lessons, Olivia's dance class. Alan. I am told by Tia Lupe is not happy. Mr. Garza sent a second letter. This one was more pointed. It outlined the legal costs Veronica would face if I filed the partition action. It noted that a court would likely view her unilateral decision to lease the property and remove our mother unfavorably. It suggested mediation as an alternative. Veronica has agreed to mediation. It is scheduled for next month. My plan is simple. I want the tenants out, I want my mother back in her home, and I want a legal agreement that neither co-owner can lease, sell, or materially alter the use of the property without written consent from the other. I want it in writing, and I want it filed with the county. I also want Veronica to understand something that I do not think she has ever understood. That house was never an asset. It was never a revenue stream. It was never a number on the balance sheet, a revenue stream. It was never a number on a spreadsheet that Alan could optimize. It was our mother's home. The first home she ever had. The only home she ever had. And Veronica took it from her because she saw dollar signs where she should have seen a human being. Some people in my family think I am being too harsh. My cousin Danny told me Veronica was trying to help in her own way. Mom did fall. The stove thing is scary. And she is right. Those things are real. I am not pretending Mom does not need more support, but there is a difference between let us hire a part-time aide and let us move Mom into a facility and rent her house without telling your sister. There is a difference between caregiving and asset management. Veronica does not see that difference. My mother is 67 years old. She worked for 30 years cleaning hotel rooms so that 2 girls could grow up, go to school, and have lives she never had. She never asked for a house. She never asked for anything. All she wanted was a garden, and her Virgin on the wall, and her pozole on Sundays. We gave her that, and then Veronica took it away. I have $247 in my savings account. I owe $750 on a credit card for legal fees. I drive a car with 87,000 miles on it. I make $51,000 a year. I am not rich. I am not powerful. I am not connected. But I am my mother's daughter, and I will not let anyone, not even my own sister, take her home. So Reddit AITA for hiring a lawyer against my sister, causing a family-wide fallout, and fighting to bring my mom back to the house we bought her, even if it means my sister and I may never speak again. Eat it. Thank you for all the comments and messages. I need to address a few things people keep asking. Yes, Mom has been evaluated. Her cardiologist says she is stable. She has mild hypertension managed with medication. The falls were real. She slipped on a wet floor once and tripped over a rug once. Neither resulted in fractures. The stove incidents were also real, but they were both cases of leaving a burner on low after cooking. She did not start a fire, nothing burned, and her neighbor Mrs. Fuentes actually does the same thing. She is 67, not 97. She is slower than she used to be, but she is competent. She makes her own decisions. She feeds herself. She dresses herself. She manages her own medications with a pill organizer I set up. Assisted living at this stage was not medically indicated. It was financially motivated. Several people suggested I look into a home health aide instead of a facility. That is exactly what I am proposing in mediation. A part-time aide, maybe 15 to 20 hours a week, to help with cooking, light cleaning, and companionship. That costs between $800 to $1,200 a month in San Antonio, a fraction of Sunny Oaks. I would continue doing everything I have been doing. Mrs. Fuentes has also offered to check in daily, which she already does anyway, because that is what neighbors do on Guadalupe Street. For everyone asking about the lease and whether the tenants can sue, Mr. Garza says the tenants have a potential claim against Veronica for misrepresenting her authority to lease the property, but since they are leaving voluntarily under the early termination clause, they are unlikely to pursue it. They just want out. I feel terrible for them. They were nice people who got caught in the middle. For everyone telling me to cut Veronica off forever, I do not know if I can do that. She is my sister. She was in the delivery room when Diego was born. She taught me how to drive. We shared a bedroom for 16 years. I am angry at her in a way that I have never been angry at anyone in my life. But she is my sister and my mother loves her, and I cannot take that from my mother too. What I can do is make sure she never has the power to make a unilateral decision about our mother's life again. That is what the mediation is for. And for everyone who said NTA thank you. I needed to hear it. When your own family tells you you are being vindictive, you start to wonder if they are right. You start to wonder if you are the crazy one. You are not supposed to hire lawyers against your sister. You are not supposed to cause scenes. You are supposed to keep the peace, especially as the younger sister, especially as the one who makes less money, especially as the one who everyone expects to just absorb it and move on. But I cannot move on. Not from this. My mother is sitting in a room that smells like floor cleaner holding a rosary asking where her garden went, and I am supposed to move on. No, I am moving forward. There is a difference. Final update posted 3 days later. The mediation happened earlier than expected. Veronica's attorney pushed to accelerate it, probably because the financial pressure of paying full freight at Sunny Oaks without rental income was getting real. Here is what happened. We sat in a conference room at the mediator's office on Broadway. Veronica brought Alan. I brought Mr. Garza. Veronica's attorney was a woman from Austin who kept checking her phone. The mediator was a retired family court judge named Sandra Munoz, and I liked her immediately because she told everyone to put their phones away and looked at Veronica's attorney when she said it. Veronica tried to frame this as a health and safety issue. She brought printouts, articles about elderly falls, statistics about stove fires, a brochure from Sunny Oaks. Alan nodded along like he was in a sales presentation, which I suppose is his natural habitat. Veronica's attorney talked about co-owner prerogatives and good faith property management decisions. Mr. Garza was quiet for most of it. Then he spoke. He laid out 3 things. First, that Veronica had signed a lease on a co-owned property without the other owner's written consent, which under Texas property law was not within her unilateral authority. Second, that she had removed the occupant of the home, a family member for whom the property was specifically purchased without consulting the co-owner. Third, that the rental income had been deposited into an account controlled solely by Veronica with no accounting provided to me. That last one was new to me. I did not know Veronica had been collecting rent and putting it in her own account. She had not told me. $1,400 a month for almost 3 months, over $4,000 sitting in an account I had no access to and no knowledge of. Judge Munoz looked at Veronica and said, "Ms. Delgado, did you disclose the rental income to your sister?" Veronica said, "It was going toward mom's care." Judge Munoz said, "That was not my question." The room got very quiet. The mediation agreement, which we all signed, includes the following. The tenants will vacate as planned. Gloria will return to her home on Guadalupe Street. Neither co-owner may lease, sell, encumber, or materially alter the use of the property without the written consent of the other co-owner. The $4,200 in rental income Veronica collected will be deposited into a joint account designated for Gloria's care and home maintenance. Veronica will pay for the first 3 months of a part-time home health aide as restitution for the unilateral decisions she made. And both parties agreed to a caregiving plan that includes shared responsibilities. Veronica will visit at minimum once a month and will handle specific tasks, including coordinating medical appointments in the Austin system for second opinions if needed. Veronica signed it. Alan looked like he had swallowed something sour. Veronica's attorney left first. I drove to Sunny Oaks the next day. I told Mom, "Mama, you are going home." She looked at me and she said, "Really?" And I said, "Really." We moved her back last Saturday. Mrs. Fuentes was on her porch. She had made a sign, just a piece of poster board with marker that said, "Welcome home, Gloria." Mom saw it and put her hand over her mouth. Diego carried her bag inside. I hung the Virgin de Guadalupe portrait back on the wall. Mom touched the frame and said something under her breath that I think was a prayer. She went straight to the backyard. The garden was dead, of course. 3 months with nobody watering it. The tomato plants were brown sticks. The cilantro was gone. She stood there looking at the dirt and she said, "We will start again. The home health aide starts next week. Her name is Marisol. She is from Laredo. She cooks. Mom already likes her. Veronica and I are not okay. I do not know if we will be." She came to the move-in and stayed for 20 minutes. She hugged Mom. Mom hugged her back because Mom is a better person than either of us. Veronica did not look at me. When she left, she said I was trying to help Rosa. I said, "I know you believe that." She got in her car and drove back to Austin. I do not hate my sister. I hate what she did. I hate that she saw a spreadsheet where I saw a home. I hate that she made a decision that affected our mother's entire life and called it logical. I hate that she collected rent and did not tell me. I hate that my mother lost 9 pounds and asked me if her own daughter was ashamed of her. But I also know that Veronica is the one who matched my $35,000. She is the one who drove from Austin for the closing. She is the one who cried when Mom said, "You gave me a home." Somewhere between that day and this one, something shifted inside her. Maybe it was Alan's influence. Maybe it was the money. Maybe it was the distance that comes from visiting every 6 weeks instead of every weekend. I do not know. I just know that the sister who cried at the closing is not the same person who listed our mother's house on Zillow Rentals. I am sitting in my apartment right now. Diego is asleep. It is 11:47 p.m. I have $247 in my savings account, $750 on a credit card, and 87,000 miles on my car. I am tired in my bones, but my mother is in her home tonight. She is sleeping in her own bed. Her virgin is on the wall. Tomorrow she is going to go to the backyard with Diego and start turning the soil for a new garden. We will start again. NTA, I hope.